creating curiosity by asking better questions. This is Shed Talk. Leah Diteljan on Shed Talk, the things you know that you didn't know about journaling. Leah Diteljan, thank you very much for coming on Shed Talk. I can't even get the words out. I'm excited to have you here. And I reached out to you due to the fact is you did my forum moderation retreat.
Yeah, that's right.
And how exciting was that?
Oh, it was really transformative for me too as a facilitator.
And being a facilitator, what's your greatest challenges? So tell me a little bit about facilitating entrepreneurs, and what we call it is herding cats. What's that like? Because I'm one of the cats, obviously. I'm all over here. Yeah.
Well, I'm a cat too, so
Yeah.
I get it, right? Some of us are lions. So it's such rewarding work because it's the interpersonal integration of really powerful personalities that makes it such a dynamic challenge. And so when there's people that have been in a similar dynamic for a long time and really think they know each other so well, I really have to dig even deeper to be like, are you sure that you really know that about your forum mate who you've known for over 20 years? It's a blast.
So how do you actually dig deeper and ask better questions? So you're facilitating, like any facilitator out there, you have to be a good listener. Mm-hmm. You have to truly be at the moment and be present at that time. Mm-hmm. Now you're getting paid to do something. Mm-hmm. Now you have to deep dive, and it's more than public speaking. It's more like you're engulfed with this group of people for like, how many days was that? 4 days, 3 days, 2 days?
Yeah.
Like, what is your mind going through?
Mm-hmm. A lot.
Okay.
So as still as I am, everything within me is calibrating to each word, each nuance, the subtleties in body language, the reactions to one another. And I think one way that I'm able to kind of stabilize this and actually put it into verbal invitations for everybody is being so grounded in what I'm feeling and wanting to see what everybody else is feeling and creating that dance. And so I do that by not directing vulnerability. I have to allow myself to be seen, and I have to be vulnerable and courageous first so that settles me in, and then I can be an even better active listener. So I usually try to lead vulnerability before just asking for it first, and no matter the tenure of any of the members or how long they've been in business, that always seems to settle it a bit easier, for me at least.
So what does vulnerability mean? Like a lot of people were listening and saying, oh, I'm you know what, I'm okay, I can be vulnerable, I understand it, but do they truly know what vulnerability really is? And like, what would you say that is?
I think we all have different measures for it of what feels courageous to say out loud. And for me, vulnerability is letting you into something internal that I'm not sure how you're going to receive. Letting you into something that I might be worried you might judge me for. And for me, vulnerability is also letting somebody in when there hasn't been many other people that have been let in to that thought or that feeling or that experience.
So let's deep down a little bit, because you just used the words about letting in. Because there's a wall there. A lot of people put up a wall and say, I'm going to let you in. So here the metaphor, okay, here's the wall, we're going to let you in. What does truly letting you in mean?
So I think a common phrase that a lot of people use is, well, you just don't understand. And when I hear somebody say, you just don't understand, sometimes people might say, well, I do understand. Or they might say, you're right, I don't understand. And then there becomes friction and the conversation stops there. The vulnerability comes from saying the next brave thing, which is, help me understand. Let me into what you think I'm not understanding. What are you feeling right now that feels hard to express?
So the understanding part of that is to be able to ask yourself, and I keep going back to this, is ask yourselves a better question like, okay, I don't understand what you're talking about. Yeah. So can you please teach me a little bit about what you're saying, and that I can experience what you're feeling.
Exactly.
Exactly. Now, with that kind of terminology, when we're using this, because we use it in forum
Yep.
and in the retreat, because I wanted to dig a little bit deeper, is in relationships. People have relationships, but are they truly vulnerable in their relationship with their spouses, significant other, or even their family members? Is there that wall and is there that trust? Like, do you see that part of it?
Often.
And how do you
Yes.
break those barriers?
Well, I have the unique perspective of coming into these dynamics. Did you want to talk about personal relationships or more the personal relationships within a forum?
I'm wide open. I'm thinking
Okay.
more of a personal relationships as individuals, because the forum, a lot of people like EO and YPO and tech, like everybody that are in these business groups, we kind of have like an understanding of it.
Yeah.
But then a lot of people get the misguided or the misinformation. But wait a second, ask ourselves a better questions as in society as a whole, relationships, divorces, where we're at with our kids or families. So I think it's a very powerful statement. And to dig down deep into that proverbial, I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, let's walk into that, the relationship aspect of that, where you walk into that, because you're seeing it from the outside.
Yeah. So when I walk into any personal dynamic, professional, personal, anything, I like to think of each person as a mirror to me. So what I'm seeing in you, Kevin, and I pick up in the way that you're showing up in your energy right now, there's an aspect that I'm seeing only because I can see it in myself. And
Is that
there's
because
a
we're
mirror
live?
here.
That's
Yeah.
because we're live.
We're live.
We're not on Zoom.
Well,
Okay. Yeah.
that-
Yeah. Okay.
Perhaps. And so, for example, like you're sitting still, you're calm, you're obviously very curious, you're leaning in, you're engaged, you sincerely want to learn about me, and that is showing me a mirror. Like, these are the aspects about me that I want to exchange with you. When somebody is closed off and they don't want to be seen, and that wall comes up, sometimes one of the most beautiful ways to invite that wall to come down is say, "Hey, I see that wall. It's okay. It's not going to hurt you. What's going on?"
And is it that lean in moment to say, "Hey, it's okay. The wall, bring down the wall," and does that actually make people open up?
Oftentimes people are surprised that I notice those aspects. Like, I remember walking into a business meeting. It was a forum retreat one day. And I said to the gentleman, I said, "You have an excellent sense of humor. And I bet you it's great for protecting yourself too, isn't it?" And he goes,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And you could see that through his humor was
Yeah.
protecting, putting up the wall about whatever he was. I don't know.
Yeah.
Would you call hiding it, or is it a character, or what does that mean?
It's a protective mechanism that's just been developed as a way to cope to not being fully seen.
And why would people not want to be seen?
Because there's aspects of themselves that they're maybe not accepting. And so if they're not accepting it in themselves, why would somebody else accept it? That's really vulnerable.
And then how do people recognize that they have that issue, or don't? I guess
Well, some people don't want to.
and I look at it, this the things you know that you don't know. So I'm closed off, and that's just who I am, and just wait up. But do you really know that you're closed off until someone actually opens the proverbial book and said, "Here, you're a wide open book, and I can see right through you." So you must recognize that in people all the time.
Yeah.
And how do you bring that out to people? I know you lean in and say, "Here, your wall is up," and you surprise them. What's the next step after that?
So the next step is actually to hold them gently in that spot. Not in a corner, because we want to make sure they still feel like there's a safe way out, or they could leave if they want to, but saying, "I care so much about you. I want to hold you here. This is fear, not danger. What's happening?"
This is fear, not danger. What's the difference?
So fear to me is something that is brave to do, and that I know that there's discomfort there. So it's exposing me in some way. Danger to me is actual physical harm. Like, if I just decide to cross the street without looking, that's probably quite dangerous. But if I cross the street, not at the crosswalk, there's probably fear there. If I look both ways, it's probably fine. Right? But emotional stuff is it's all fear-based. There's no physical danger expressing ourselves.
And it seems to just be, it's all in our head. We all tell ourselves the story or the narrative. And I use this because there's a few times I always talk about this as the narrative, the buzzwords, right?
Yes, yeah.
The narrative,
Yeah.
Pivoting, narrative. And I keep going back to that. So they'll say, well, that's your vocabulary because you only know that. And I'm going, okay, that's fine. But it's interesting. So buzzwords that we're using to control the narrative of fear in ourselves is just that little guy on our shoulder. Is that correct?
Yeah, one of them.
And what's the other ones?
The other ones might be our uncle that came to a soccer game and was just absolutely fanatic about scoring a goal, and I never forgot that time that he was yelling at me, and I got really afraid, and I never wanted to play striker anymore. Now I play defense because I want to play back.
From the experience that you shared with that guy, that emotional
uncle.
contact that you
Yep.
just got.
That could be a voice that's stored as a story and a belief of what I'm capable of. No, I'm not good at forward because my uncle said so when I was 7 years old at that soccer game.
So would you have it where a lot of people would say, you know the incident that had happened, the 7-year-old at a soccer game, the reason why I don't play is because my uncle said that, or is there ones that you just don't know why you feel discomfort? Or
It's most often that
that
they don't know, and we have to excavate. Well, would you like to know? Because sometimes people are just really not ready, and there's a sensitivity to that. So checking in, excavating, checking in with their thoughts. What are these buzzwords that they're using? What's the repetition of those words? Because those are indicators of where we can go next.
And you can really tell people right away if they've got a wall up or not up right away. How fast is that?
Pretty quickly. And I used to get really bothered by it, just being somebody that's more comfortable being vulnerable. And I realized I was bothering myself by it because I wanted to change them because I thought the way I conducted myself was better. And so now when I see somebody that has a wall up, I actually have a lot more compassion and just recognize they will change that when they're ready. If I'm in a space where it makes sense to identify that with them, I will, especially if it's a paid facilitator role. If it's just out at a networking event, certainly not a time where I'd really bring that up unless we're one-on-one and we have an opportunity.
I guess that would be kind of difficult when you're at a networking event and you're going to go, you know what, I'm going to change you today.
Yeah. Everybody loves that person, right?
Yeah, how true that is. Yeah, okay, I'm ready for change. Let's just do it right now.
Right,
That's it.
yeah.
Change me. I need to be changed. Can you
Yes.
show me? If you show me, I'll be the world's greatest, whatever that is. Just tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
You must get that a lot. Just tell me how to do it and I'll just do it.
Yeah. And I think that's admittedly a really difficult time of a client engagement when I'm working with somebody one-on-one. And I'll say, if you're looking for change to come from me, then this isn't going to work. It has to come from you, and I'll be here to guide you.
Interesting. They have to be acceptance of that change to themselves.
Exactly. Otherwise, I'm enabling.
Right.
Not helpful.
So how long, when you sit with somebody and you're
Yeah.
there and you're deep diving, how long does this usually take? Is this like a 20-minute session? And it's not I'm using sessions,
Yeah.
which is wrong. Is this like a weekend or a day, or run me through that process?
Yeah. So for one-on-one clients, we meet on a weekly basis for 60 minutes. And these powerful moments might come 2 minutes in, or they might come 59 minutes in. It just depends on the nature of the conversation. If we're doing weekend-long retreats, or sometimes week-long retreats, there might be a collection of these moments. And there also might be moments where there isn't resonance. That's also a wonderful thing, is letting go of control and understanding I can't control the resonance, but I can notice when something is resonant and then calibrate to that.
So deep dive that again. You're recognizing resonance.
Yes.
Okay, deep dive that for me.
So just like you mirrored back just now, talking about resonance, if somebody is like nodding and very engaged with something I say, I might continue on that path to describe it further because that means they want more.
Right.
If people start looking at their watch or they look a little bit tired, it might not be the time for this content. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
No,
And so
yeah.
then I get to calibrate in the moment. And that's what's helpful, because then it's always about them and very little about me. I'm just the person that gets to navigate the energy in the room.
So navigate the energy in the room. it's like being a professional salesperson and really reading the room.
Yeah.
So you must be able to read a room very well. Like when you walk into a situation, a networking event,
Yeah.
you could probably pinpoint like who you're, I say targeting, but who you feed energy off of.
Yeah.
And how do you pick those people? Like, how do you pick great energy? Somebody walks into a room, and I'm going to do it again, deep dive it, about finding those people with great energy, because sometimes you just become attracted to somebody,
Right.
and you wonder why.
Right.
But is there an intentional attraction, intentionally living?
I think it's a blend between subconscious and conscious mind in that energetic space. So for example, I might be drawn to somebody simply for their physicality. They might have a gorgeous blazer on and I want to go say hi because I love that blazer and that color. That might be a reason. Another reason might be deeper than that. What is it about the way that they're reacting to that person saying something and they're laughing and they seem really happy? Maybe I just want to go and be in that energy because I feel like being light right now. So I used to step into a room like that and be like, oh, I wonder how many new clients I can meet. And now it really is about the energy and enjoying myself and seeing where these conversations go. It can very much be, I've been sitting at this table for a little bit and I'm enjoying myself immensely. I would like to get to know other people. I'm intentionally going to go take a bathroom break, even though I don't need to take one, and see who I meet on the way to the bathroom.
And you're intentionally going to make sure that you meet somebody.
Yeah.
You're actually going to say, okay, I'm going to do 5 handshakes or fist pumps or whatever that, but intentionally you're actually drawing your own conclusion of success on that particular moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, all this experience that you've put together, rounded yourself and said, all right, I'm going to share my gifts and abilities of what you do, and you facilitate, and you take it to one more level, and you wrote a book.
Yeah.
And I love how you said this earlier. Oh, well, I co-wrote it. No, you didn't You're amazing of what you do to put yourself out there to do that. And explain the book a little bit better to myself.
Sure. So the book is called Lead Like a Woman. It's the third book in a 5-book series maybe, and this theme specifically is about tenacious. And so my chapter is chapter 4, and the title is Let Her In. And her is present me. Not the one I just spoke about, the one right now,
Okay.
who is constantly in this moment. And tenacious, as I describe it in this chapter, is about emotional tenacity. It's about using emotions as indicators to understand how we make clear, confident decisions to meet our needs. And the emotion I harrowed in on in this chapter is guilt, which women have a VIP ticket to, is feeling guilt.
Women
and
too.
often being motivated by guilt, which is a very low vibrational emotion to be motivated to do something for. And so I speak about how I had an unmet need being in a long distance relationship for so long, and through emotional tenacity had the courage to express it and fulfill that need. And then I encourage women, other readers, to explore their relationship with guilt and other emotions and how that's motivating their behavior. And if they look back at the behavior and what they did, what could they then change so that they can look back and learn if they would have done something differently and weren't motivated by guilt, how much more fulfilling would that be for them?
So in other words, you're saying is that it's actually the woman's fault.
And that's why we're here, Kevin.
That's exactly. Well, the things you know that you didn't know. You mean it's taken me this long to actually realize it's actually the woman's fault? Oh man, I can't believe that.
That's exactly what leading like a woman is all about. Just taking ownership, right?
Right. Yeah, taking ownership. Oh my gosh. So, and you just mentioned about guilt, right? Women. But and men, and I use this sarcastically and say, well, okay, now I know why women do, but it's like men feel guilt as well.
Yes, of course.
In probably, I can't speak for the female, or the woke, or the he, she, me. I'm making sure I'm politically correct on all aspects.
Yeah,
but as a guilt factor on the same thing, would this be resonate in a male as well? reading this?
I think so. I think the part about, insert any emotion there, but using it as an indicator to express yourself and then getting really clear on what your needs are, that's not gender specific.
No, so okay, so I want to get back onto the guilt thing. So
Yeah.
as a female or as a male and feeling guilt,
Yeah.
is it feeling guilt about one situation that had happened? So recognizing that one situation, I feel
Yeah.
guilt because of this, and because I feel that, does that mean that it was wrong?
I think we're quick to label things wrong if we don't think we should do something because of inherent values that we have or societal norms. So I'll be specific about what it was. So I was feeling really guilty because I was in a long distance relationship in COVID. I was in Vancouver, he was in Sydney. And there was no way that my sexual needs could be met by him fully online.
But why is that guilt?
So I felt guilty because I was in a committed relationship with him, and yet I had this unmet need that I didn't know how to fill it.
Right.
And so by expressing it with him, it took our dialogue into a way that I didn't expect, that created a lot more liberation rather than suppressing that guilt and creating more separate, like disconnect between us probably. It created a lot more connection by bravely voicing it.
So I'm going to deep dive that a little bit.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter in the situation, but as it being guilt, or is it actually being able to understand conversation? Meaning, all right, I'm going to be that open book, vulnerability, and I'm going to open up the Pandora box so that I can communicate better with you to fulfill my needs. Is that a guilt, or is that a wanton need for yourself?
I think it's both. So I think the emotion is showing me something that I need to move towards. And so that's where the brave conversation came from. Because oftentimes when there is an emotion that seems negative, like guilt or fear or anything like that, we have a tendency to move away from it because of that fear, because of that perceived danger. But I've learned whatever the emotion is, go towards it, accept it, learn what it's communicating. And that's going to bring more growth for me in some capacity.
So if you take fear, okay,
Yep.
so there's the guilt. So
Yep.
I feel guilt, so I got an emotional feeling of guilt.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to use fear, okay? Isn't fear going to give you a totally different expression, a totally different outcome? Or an interpretation, and I use fear as the fear of dying or the fear of this versus the fear of guilt, because they're two totally different.
Yes.
So they're two totally different feelings.
Yes.
But to actually feel fear and to feel guilt, they're two totally different emotions too, obviously.
Yeah.
So how do you place them together in the same kind of area that you're talking about? Because you felt guilt and then you're going to throw it into fear.
Yeah.
Are they two different things?
Yes. So the reason I've come to learn that adults are so much more complicated because we can feel so many different emotions at one time, like a cocktail of emotions. Whereas if you see a kid have a tantrum, it's because they feel one emotion at a time up until they're 7 years old.
Oh.
So it's an actual real potent experience of that one emotion. So if we're adults and we're blending guilt and fear together at the same time.
So what else would you feel? Guilt, fear, what other emotions?
I might, like fear of rejection might be a type of guilt that I feel there. I might feel ashamed a little bit.
Is there a way to control your emotions?
Awareness of them. So if I notice that I'm feeling guilty, then I'm observing the guilt. Therefore, the feeling is not as present. It's outside of me. But if the guilt is over consuming me and I'm not aware of it, then I'm probably not in control of it.
So how do you make yourself aware of it?
For me, it's connecting the sensations of my body and then using language to understand what is it that I'm feeling. And emotional vocabulary is one of the most empowering things that we can do in this day and age. I truly believe it. It is like learning another language, but the more that we can attune to what I'm feeling and have a word for it and use its accuracy, the more we're able to have emotional resilience because we know what's happening.
Can you go down that road with me and explain that a little bit deeper and the vocabulary of it.
Right. So part of feeling a huge emotion, if it's really consuming us, our breath tightens, it's more shallow, it's in our chest, it's really suffocating. Whereas if we're in a calmer state and we're more relaxed, generally we're having more full body breaths, we're calmer, we're more aware, we're able to see more things. Our awareness is just so beautiful. But when it's tighter and smaller and shorter, and we're feeling lower vibrational emotions like fear, guilt, shame, anger, frustration, all these things, think of road rage. That's where our breath is so shallow and we're driving and we're ready to flip the bird at anybody because we're just not aware and we're consumed by that circumstance. However, if we're like, wow, it's really busy on the roads right now. Thank goodness I left 10 minutes early. I'm just going to go the speed limit. Wow, that person just cut me off. Like there's just such a different thing when I'm aware of my breath and how it's circulating. Like I'm going to be calm instead of I got to get there. I'm 5 minutes late already. It's just you're not aware of what your body's doing, so it's harder to identify with the emotion you're feeling. Therefore, it's consuming and flooding you.
So starting your day off, is there a ritual? Because you just
Starting my day off?
Yeah, so I'm going to use this as an example, because you just talked about getting up the I'm tight, here it is, flipping the bird off. Okay, this, and then all of a sudden, intentionally starting your day off. So give me an example with that, with your day.
Yeah. So I don't meditate first thing every morning. I journal almost every single night before bed, though, because I believe that my night before starts my morning the best, because that helps set me up for my dreams and my subconscious state, which is going to show me what I need to work on the next day. So I do it a little bit differently. When I wake up, I make sure I smile. That's the one thing I do when I first wake up. No, not in the mirror, but that's cute too. Yeah. Some people do in the mirror, but I just make sure when I'm ready to get up that I smile. And that changes my day. Whether it's completely forced or not, I'm like, just smile before my toes hit the floor. And that's my moment of mindfulness.
Now, your mindfulness, do you make your bed in the morning?
Yes.
Okay, because I've read that, got to make your bed.
Yeah.
So I want to go back now about the night before you journal.
Yeah.
And the importance of journaling. Is it the importance to do journaling, or is the importance the act of journaling?
So some people really fight journaling because they don't like writing, and there's a lot of blocks that might be coming up there. For me, journaling might be speaking out loud and voice recording it, or it might actually be writing. Every night I generally do the writing, but if I'm really stuck on something, I use the voice record and the writing. And the reason for that is because when I'm speaking, there's a different frequency that comes out than when I'm writing. And hearing myself allows me to observe, do I really believe that? Is that really what I'm feeling right now? Am I allowing my human ego to run this show, or is my higher self stepping in and really showing me the way? So it helps me decipher and dismantle a lot of things that I'm not sure if they connect in the way that I need them to. And that's what I use journaling for.
Okay, so I want to deep dive that one more time. Again, so I'm using a recorder. Okay. I'm recording my voice, saying whatever I'm journaling about. I shut it off.
Yeah.
I sit back. I haven't written anything down. Now I'm going to play it back. Now, do you play it back?
Yeah.
Okay, play it back. Now, what is the story that I just told? Do I hear another story? Are they in line with who I am?
Exactly.
And say, I just said this, whatever that is, I know what I said, but did I really say what I meant to say?
Exactly.
Interesting, because I was just thinking that, because it's kind of like that aha moment that we take social media and we write something and then punctuation and where that's at, and then, or so when you talk with somebody and you meet them, but how many people actually do it to themselves and actually record yourself talking and feeling about this situation, and then listen back to yourself later on. Is that what you actually said? That's pretty
so powerful.
I have, that is very powerful. That's one of those things I had no idea. And then to try that, to think, because then you really get to deep dive yourself internally. Are you truly saying what you mean? Yeah. And that's on your journaling. And then from there, you're writing it.
Exactly.
Because your writing would make it always the same. Your punctuation or whatever it says, I'm whatever that is, whatever you're writing, you're seeing what you're writing and you can't interpret it because it's truly what you've written.
Yeah.
Versus I'm hearing this because the inflections and the emotions that I feel,
Exactly.
I get to truly understand how I feel at that particular time.
Yeah. And then I take it out and I dissect, like, is that a belief? Where is this belief coming from? How is that showing up in some of the decisions that I'm making right now?
Now, is the belief the feeling, or is it or is it a statement that you just talked about?
It's the belief is generally a statement.
Okay.
If I happen to use a feeling, then I'll unwind that feeling as well.
And then you just deep dive yourself all the way through it.
Yeah.
And then once you're done all that, then what happens?
Well, sometimes this is 10 to 15 minutes. If I'm starting to get tired, then I'll pick it up again the next day and just close the book. Or I do this on road trips too, by myself all the time. Like, I'll just put the voice recorder on and I'll just talk. And then I'll say, okay, that thought's complete. Then I put it on pause and then I listen back and then I'll add it and stuff. And so I just love doing that because, one, I used to cringe at the sound of my own voice. Now I love the sound of my own voice, and it's not from like an egotistical standpoint. It's I can recognize myself because I've invested time to do so.
And you get to truly know who you are.
Yes.
And your inflections and your integrity with yourself.
Exactly.
That is absolutely amazing. Well, Leah, thank you very much for being on Shed Talk, the things you know that you didn't know. And you know what? This was awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I had a great time too, Kevin.
Now you know. Shed Talk.